सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Harmony in relationship, that's the topic of these 2 evenings. Relationship is something that is built into the life of a human being. They say we are social animals, and at every moment we are related to something or somebody. Even when we may be alone by ourselves, then also we related, because I have the notion about myself that I am a son. Even if I am by myself, I see myself as a son, as daughter, as father, as mother, as brother, as friend. So physically or emotionally we are constantly related. So the time that we wake up in the morning till the time that we go to sleep, throughout the time when we are conscious, we are related to someone or something. Sometimes it may be relationship with my house, my car, my furniture, my belongings, my wealth, my job, my position, etc. But here mainly we are going to talk about our relation with other human beings, which is the primary and most important relationship. You'll be happy to know or surprised to know that most of our happiness, they say some 80% of our happiness comes from relationship. Meaning that other things such as house and car and wealth, etc. are there to give us happiness. But the thing that gives us most happiness is our relationship. This we should know. Meaning that our relationships are most precious things in our life. And every relationship is precious. It may be relationship with the spouse, which is the most intimate relationship, with the children, with parents, with other members of the family, with friends, with neighbors, with colleagues. Each of these relationships can be a source of happiness and can also be a source of unhappiness. That's the problem. If the relationship was always a source of happiness, no problem. You don't need to think. But then a relationship can also be a source of unhappiness. And just as most of our happiness comes from a relationship, most of unhappiness also comes from relationships. And therefore it is important to understand what a relationship is and how to make the relationship as a source of happiness rather than a source of stress, tension, unhappiness. Because a lot of our tension comes from relationship also. Closer the relationship is, more likely it is to cause greater tension. And so, we should understand every relationship is unique. I relate to another person in a unique manner because every individual is unique. There are no two identical persons. And therefore, I relate to each one in the unique way. And therefore, each relationship becomes important and I have to pay attention to it. We cannot take a relationship for granted. Just as when you plant a sapling, that sapling requires care. It requires that you pay attention to that, water it when required, provide the soil, provide the support, provide manure, fertilizer. Even a sapling also requires a lot of care, is it not so? And if you don't pay attention, you may lose that plant. It may bend down, it may dry up. So you can see how even raising a plant also requires a lot of care and also a lot of understanding. Every plant behaves in a different way, isn't it? Some requires light, some requires shade, some require light and shade. That's what I am told. I don't understand this thing, but this is what I am told. Some need more water, some I just keep on watering. Swami, don't do this. This plant doesn't require water. We think that more water means good. Not necessarily. More fertilizer. He says, no, Swami, it will burn the plant. So what kind of fertilizer, how much water, how much light? Those who do gardening, they understand these things. So just as a plant requires understanding the nature of plant, the needs of the plant, and how to fulfill those needs, right? So also, every relationship requires to understand the nature of relationship, the needs of the relationship. बच्चे तो ऐसे बच्चे. How to maintain the relationship? It requires understanding, maturity, commitment, and doing the right thing. Why is it so, Swamiji? Why should a relation Chatura? Because two unique people relate to each other. I said every person is unique. And therefore, the relationship that we have with another person is a unique relationship, different from the relationship that we have with other people. So who is this person? What are we relating to? A person can be said to be, in Vedantic language, a bundle of raga and dvesha, a bundle of attachments and aversions, a bundle of emotions. We are primarily emotional beings, and it is the emotional being who always interacts with the world. We are intelligent beings also. We may have a lot of wisdom. But when I interact with the world, it is not by wisdom or intelligence that it interacts, it is emotion that interacts. Understand that. That's the reason why sometimes we find, Swami, when you're talking in the class, you're a different person. I'm just giving an example, just to let you off the hook. But how do you behave like this? You talk about anger, how do you get angry? So the person who is talking, he is talking at the intellectual level, and person who is interacting is interacting at the emotional level. Understand? We are intelligent beings also, thinking people also, and we are emotional people also. And all our vyavahara, all interactions are carried out by the emotional being and not the intelligent being. Therefore, I may be very intelligent and talking in a very wise way. But if that wisdom is not percolated to my emotion, then sometimes there is no harmony and no explanation of why this person behaves like this when he talks in a certain way. Therefore, understand that we are basically emotional beings. It is emotional being that relates to the world. And what are these emotions? Of course, we are loving people, we are kind people. So love, kindness is the nature of every being, every human being. But unfortunately, we have other things also. These are called the Devi, the divine wealth we have. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about Devi Sampat, the divine wealth. So kindness, compassion, love, charity, generosity, all of these are the divine wealth. And each one of us has that. Basically, we are divine people. Meaning, basically, each one of us is a kind, loving, beautiful person. But unfortunately, some other entities also have managed to enter our mind and establish their hold. If you are not careful, if you admit everybody, in your house, all kinds of people may come. They say some people you talk only from, from you see the person talk and keep him outside only. Some person you open the door, talk and finish it off. Some person you allow up to the living room, Some person you allow up to the dining room. You can't allow everybody to every room, to your bedroom, etc. Similarly also, we have every relationship that way is a unique relationship. So, who is this individual relating to the other individual? Who is this emotional being relating to other emotional being? That I'm a kind person, I'm a good person, I'm a generous person. This is given to, we are all like that. At the same time, other entities also have managed to intrude into our mind. We may not have known what sort of entities they were, and therefore we gave them the room, and now they have become the bosses. Like anger. Anger is one thing, resentment may be another thing, hatred may be a third thing, aversion may be fourth thing. Distrust may be another thing. So these negative emotions also are there unfortunately in us. And whenever any of those emotions take hold of me, then my behavior is going to be very hurtful to others. Meaning that whenever I act out of anger, I'm going to hurt somebody. When kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, greed, resentment, jealousy, when this kind of impulses take hold of my mind, then my behavior is going to be a violent behavior. I'm going to hurt somebody. So this is how we wind up hurting each other. Swamiji, I did not mean to do that, but I said it. So I say something, I don't say. Something makes me say that, But Swamiji was fond of saying this. People advise, don't get angry. How many times we are told, don't get angry. I will get angry provided I have freedom not to get angry. Suppose I tell you right now, our Swami used to do that. Come on, you people get angry. You get angry. You get angry at me. Why are you laughing? Huh? When I tell them to get angry, they start laughing. Why? Get angry? Do this. Can't you get angry? Anybody tries to get angry? No? This is very important to know, and interesting and important to know that we cannot deliberately get angry. You follow? We cannot deliberately get angry, greedy, jealous, all these negative things we cannot deliberately do. Deliberately we can sympathize. Deliberately we can help. Deliberately we can be charitable. That we can deliberately do. Wow, this much? Okay, let me give more, this much. So thus these good qualities, what Lord Krishna would call divine virtues, that we can do. This demoniac virtue, asuri sampat, like kama, krodha, lobha, we cannot deliberately do. I don't get angry, anger gets me. You follow? I don't get angry, anger gets me. Otherwise I can... So when you advise me, don't get angry, Swamiji, but I don't get angry. Anger gets me. It is like writing a signboard in front of your home. Thieves are not permitted. No? You think they're going to ask your permission? So you can write a signboard, anger is not permitted, this is not permitted. They don't ask your permission. They take hold of ourselves. So I'm saying all this so that we understand ourselves. And we understand others also. More we understand ourselves, more we'll understand others also, and more wise we will be in relating to others, because better we understand, more wise thoughtful our relationship will be. Everything needs understanding. This clock also needs understanding. This thing needs understanding. How does it open? You press in some way like this, then it opens. See, I press it and still doesn't open. You know why? Because it's locked. So even these little things also requires me to understand that, then only I can function, relate with it. Is it not so? Yesterday in our kitchen, the person who came to serve us brought a big pot which was closed. It had some kadhi, something inside, and he wanted to serve to the Swami. He tried to open it. He tried all kinds of things. It just would not open. You know why? Why that pot would not open? You must have tried. Sometimes things don't open, isn't it? You know why?
It was steaming hard.
Huh?
It was steaming hard inside, so the pressure got lost.
Oh, that's very smart. Most of housewives don't understand this, poor ladies, But that steam, gets condensed and becomes vacuum, and then you cannot open it. So then you have to put this under. I said, put it under the cold water, on the tap, and then slowly things will settle down and will be okay. But simple things like that, you have to understand everything in order to deal with them. Then what? Human being is a very complex entity. And to deal with them. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita describes our personality as made up of the raga and dvesha, attachment and aversions, likes and dislikes, simplifying. We have many emotions in us, kama, krodha, lobha, and we may have greed and jealousy, and we have resentment, all kinds of, they're all reduced to two. Raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, likes and dislikes. So who am I? I am a bundle of raga and dvesha. I shouldn't say who you are, but then you can think about it yourself. I don't want to, brand you. But one bundle of raga dvesha interact with another bundle of raga dvesha. This is what the relationship is. Because I said we are emotional beings, and our emotion, this emotional person who is interacting, and basically when I say emotional, we are loving, kind, good people. If that is the one interacting, there is no problem. Everything will be wonderful. But then these impulses are also there, anger also is there, jealousy also is there, resentment also is there. We have history with everybody. Two persons who relate to each other have a history. So past experience is already formed an impression on that person in my mind. And therefore when I meet that person, already all the impressions that are formed in my mind, they automatically take hold of, and that is how I see that person. I do not see a new, fresh person. I see a person about whom I already have conclusions. Meaning that we do not relate to people as they are, we relate to people as we perceive them, we have perception. There is a world here and we have a perception of them. You know what is perception? How I see things. Sometimes they show some picture, If you look at it, it looks like an old woman. Look, this looks like a very young woman. Have you seen this? Harvard professors used to, give this kind of a lesson to their students. What is this? Half of them will say an old woman. Other will say this is a young woman. It is the perception. It is the way I see. And so is the way I see any person at any time. And that seeing may not be determined by that person. The seeing may be determined by my emotions, my ragadveshas, my attachments, aversions. So usually they are the things, these are the impulses, which in fact distort my perception, and that is how I perceive the world. I do not relate to you as you are. I relate to you as I perceive you. Take care. Don't trust the neighbor. Don't do this. Some things are already there in our mind. And that's how we perceive them, maybe quite different from what they are. So, the reason why we are looking into all of this is so that we understand why things are happening the way, Swami, why my relationship are like this? And many of us, if not all of us, many of us have quite unpleasant experiences in relationships. A relationship which is meant to be a source of happiness often becomes a source of unhappiness. And therefore, harmony in relationship. What is harmony? When I enjoy a relationship. When the relationship becomes a source of happiness, which is what it is meant to be. These fellows, these two persons did not get married to become miserable, isn't it? They got married to become happy, become friends, to become happy. Some relationships are all given, meaning we don't. I am born as a son of somebody, my parents, given. My siblings, I am a brother. Even before I realize I am a son, a brother, I may be an uncle also. The little one, because the elder brother has some child, and he is an uncle. Maternal uncle, paternal uncle. Meaning there are many relationships we are born with. We have no choice. In other relationships we cultivate ourselves with friends, with neighbors, with the members of society. Again, when you go to place of work, given. My boss, that's what it is. My colleagues, that's what they are. My subordinate, that's what they are. And so, these relationships are sort of created, or I'm given. So many relationships I'm stuck with, and many relationships I create, and many relationships I can create. There's some with I can create distance. I can't get distance in everything, When things are not working out, there is a choice of creating distance. Not always easy, not always possible. Creating distance also, Swamiji, I miss him. Not creating distance, I can't put up with him or her, whatever, So sometimes we are not happy this way, we are not happy that way. Therefore, harmony in relationship is extremely important, because when there is harmony, the relationship becomes a source of happiness. desire money, relationship becomes a source of unhappiness. So just as most of our happiness comes from relationship, most of unhappiness also comes from relationships. That's why we understand. Two persons. Now, important thing is, I relate to a person not as the person is, as I perceive the person. That person also does not relate to I as I am perceived by others. So I don't understand why this person behaves like this. Am I treated like this? So I'm always taken for granted. Why? I'm misunderstood always. Why? And so that naturally there are complaints like that. That is because we are perceived in a certain way. What can I do, Swamiji? I'm always misunderstood. People don't understand me. So many people always behave like this with me. They treat me this way. So very often we complain, and there may be genuine complaint. But then we have to ask, do I also contribute in that? That Swami, I'm always treated like this. But do I also contribute in that? But I'm perceived. Do I also contribute in the way I am perceived by others? That is also important. So understand that it is not only what I am is important, but the way I am perceived is more important. You follow? So there are smart people who know how to manage things, how to manipulate things. They create a perception about themselves, the whole world, Today only I was reading the New York Times about this was a secret agent. He was a double agent. Agent of CIA, agent of KGB, or what is that Russian thing, He was agent of those. He was actually, in fact, what do they call them, these people? But anyway, so the whole life he always worked for them. Can you believe? These fellows in FBI, not in an ordinary place. They thought that he's our man, and all along he worked for them and got, a lot of money. For years together, these people, FBI people, could not recognize this person. So smart he was. So when they, after many years, found out, what were you doing, he himself asked, what are you doing all these days? How come you could not see me? Finally, it took so long and so many secrets were given up. So many important secrets of the United States were all passed on to Russia. Years together. And FBI's own agent, FBI did not know. He was trusted by them. So this is how people can be pretty smart. To create a perception about themselves. They can manipulate. We are not talking about them, but as I said, there are all kinds of people in the world. And therefore, we may not be smart enough to understand everybody. But this is how things are that people can manipulate. People can create an appearance of being different from what they actually are. And you discover after a number of years, then comes divorce. Anyway, so this is about the perception. A relationship. I do not relate to a person as a person is. I relate to a person as I perceive the person. People don't relate to me. They relate to me as they perceive me. That's why a lot of work goes into being perceived in a certain way. I have hairstyle. I have these robes with me. There is a great effort involved here, so that you perceive me in a certain way. Isn't it? They say, yes, all right. So they agree that I am also one of those. But yeah, that's true. And thus, this relationship is between two entities as they perceive each other. Not two entities as they are, and sometimes a whole lifetime goes. Not with the FBI agent, with our own life also. Sometimes our wife does not recognize husband, so he doesn't recognize her. When husband told me, Swami, she kept on pulling away the money from a joint account, and by the time he realized after 30 years, there was nothing in his account. Nothing was left. Two friends also have partners in business, and one day, after 30 years, when this fellow went, the doors were closed, he was not allowed inside. I mean, these are the worst cases, but the thing is, how we can be so gullible, how we can be so vulnerable. Not that we are what we are, but I am saying all this as so that we know how we always relate to the person as we perceive them, not necessarily as the person may be. So this is the relationship. And as I said, who am I? I am a bundle of my emotions. Who are you? You are a bundle of your emotions. One emotional person relating to another emotional person. Therefore, human being is basically an emotional being. All my wisdom, upbringing, all of these get relegated to the background. When I get angry, Swami, you were talking so elaborately about anger, and the anatomy of anger, but what happened to you? When it gets me, I become a different person. And therefore, this understanding relationship is between two persons, each one of whom is a bundle of emotions. Secondly, we relate to a person as we perceive the person, which may not necessarily be what the person is. So what should we do, Swamiji, to make a relationship successful? Two persons who are related, it takes two to make a relationship successful, I must say. One person can try very hard, but if there is no support or cooperation with the other one, it becomes very difficult. You can give in and giving and giving and giving, and how long can you do that? So it requires two persons who are related to each other to make a decision that we want to make this relationship. That we want to make the relationship successful. This must be a commitment from any relationship. Between spouses, of course, the most intimate and most important relationship, but then every relationship has degree of importance, whether between friends and between colleagues and between siblings and so forth. And the two persons have to make a decision that we want to make this relationship successful. Then we can do. One person can try. As we were, I think now I don't find those boards in Pennsylvania, they called yielded. But here I found them. They were always there. Have you seen this sign called yield? Where do you find that? Where do you find the sign yield? When you enter a highway, who should yield to whom? The person entering should yield to the main traffic. But yield. That's a very important attitude. Yield. If you can do that, things will be wonderful. When there is a conflict between two persons, is conflict between one bundle of ragadveshas, another bundle of ragadveshas, one bundle of emotions, other bundle. So, what do? Yield. It means let go. So, let go is a very great formula to maintain any relationship. If both the persons decide that just we want to make, and both of them are ready to let go, then it's most wonderful. The only way a relationship will work is both the persons who are related, their spouses, their friends, their siblings, their relatives, their neighbors, whoever they are, colleagues, if both of them decide to yield whenever necessary, then the relationship will be beautiful. We don't yield, our ego gets hurt. I don't yield, I won't yield, why should I yield? Something within me prevents me from letting go, prevents me from yielding, prevents me from being generous, And therefore, in order to make the relationship successful, a simple word is yield. If both the persons decide, not one, Swami, you are always yielding. In India, women are always yielding and yielding and yielding and yielding. That's how the social system is. Where man is a breadwinner, he is the head of the family, often is ruler of the family, and therefore he always decides. And woman generally yields. That's how things are going on in India. So in India there are very little, nowadays they are coming up, but there are little divorce, isn't it? Why? See Swami, American society. Divorce rate is so high. Look at us in India, like very, very little. That's great, is it not so? But just because two persons live together does not mean that they are living together happily. It's good. India is better because we have value for holding on to. And of course there are other problems also. Women have a problem in India. Woman has no freedom. No economic freedom because totally depend upon men in most cases. No social freedom because society doesn't accept. No economic freedom, no social freedom, etc. And therefore women are helpless. Therefore they pull on. So just because the divorce rates in India is very low does not mean that the marriages are necessarily happier. This is my personal view. I don't want to impose upon others. But to make life successful requires a lot of maturity and wisdom. And when that is there, things work out. Otherwise, one of them, generally wife, but sometimes husband also. Whoever is dominating, we don't know outwardly. What is inwardly, they alone know who is dominating, who is not. But however, if both of them yield, If I keep on yielding other person, then I feel I am taken advantage of. I feel that I am exploited. I feel that there is unfairness towards me. I feel hurt. So in India, relationships go on with husband and wife many years. But as this lady told me, she was 60 years old, he says, from today I am not going to be, from this day, no more I am going to submit and surrender. She says, I have done enough. Because in India there is this duty and this relationship and so forth, and that is a limit to what a person can do. So in order to make the relationship happy, it's necessary that both of them meet halfway. For that important that they learn to yield. Where to yield? Not just yield. Where to yield? How to yield? That is to bring about harmony in relationship. So today I will stop here. We'll continue with this topic tomorrow.
Swami, would you take a few questions?
Yes, that's right. So we can welcome to ask questions.
Swami, we talk about this rag, dvesh. It's right. Do you think is this the attachment is leading to this perception you call? That stirs up all these rag, dveshas?
I didn't follow one sentence. What is it?
No, my simple thing was that, is it the attachment?
Uh-huh.
Whatever it could be, wherever it could be, whomever it could be with, does that stirs up the so-called perception you suggested, that we meet with the perception, not with the person who is, and that stirs up the rag dveshas, and that culminates in our behavior.
If you could kindly repeat your question, then they'll be recorded. They will all hear also.
I thought I was loud enough. That's how they perceive me too. That's what all this tell me.
They always tell you, you're too loud.
No, my simple question was that is it this the attachment which leads to the perception for the person, whoever it be, a person, a thing, or whatever it is, it leads to the perception of that, and this attachment stirs up this rag dvesha within us, which forces us to act the way we act. So is the attachment is the main culprit here?
Before... pardon me?
I said, can he give the example with the heart to understand the question?
Can you give an example?
No, that's what he leaves to me. But the question is, what determines our perception? You said that we relate to a person as we perceive the person, not as a person, maybe. What is it that determines is it my attachment that determines my perception? That's the question, isn't it? That's the question. We will go a step further. It is my perception. You see, number one, we have perception of ourselves first. Before I perceive you, I perceive myself. Because as a human being, I'm a self-conscious being, and therefore I'm always conscious of myself. You follow? Each one of us is conscious of ourselves, and since I am conscious of myself, I already have a perception about myself, which is what we call complex. Inferiority complex, superior complex, this complex, etc. Understand that the first thing that we have is we have a perception about ourselves. I don't mean that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm more than that. whether I'm a good person, not so good a person, a smart person, not smart person, intelligent person, not so intelligent, wise person, not so wise, you follow? This is what I mean. That we always have a judgment about ourselves as to who I am. And more often than not, that judgment is not very flattering. Meaning that our perception of ourselves is not a very flattering perception. More often than not, I think that I am not good enough. I think that I am not smart enough, I am not intelligent enough, I am not good enough. More often than not, this is what I think. So my perception of you is more based on my perception of myself. If I am a self-confident person, having self-worth or self-respect, is more likely I'll respect you also. If I respect myself, it's likely that I'll respect you also. If I don't respect myself, it's likely that I may not respect you. So the way I treat you is based upon the way I treat myself. And since as a human being I'm a self-conscious being, therefore I always have I'm conscious of myself. Judgment of myself. Call it judgment, call it person. I don't mean by judgment man or woman. Judgment is, am I all right? I'm not all right. I'm smart. I'm not smart. Intelligent. Not intelligent. Limited. So we have a perception which is generally that I am a limited being. I am inadequate being. I am a wanting being. I am a needy being. You follow? Usually my perception of myself is I am a needy being. So more often than not, when I relate to others as a needy person. When I relate to a needy person, then I look upon you as one who will fulfill my need. So there is an expectation there. So my need brings about an expectation from you as to what you should do to me so that I'll be happy. So my perception of you is based on also my perception of myself. How self-reliant I am, how self-confident I am, what self-esteem I have, that will decide how I relate to others. I don't have self-esteem, I relate to others as an inferior person, looking for their favor, looking for,
What is the attachment here?
No, that's why I answered in my way. He said it is attachment. I said it is my perception of myself that decides how I perceive others. Not attachment.
Is that the attachment he is talking about?
He may be talking about anything. But I explained what it is. He thinks it's attachment. I saying it's not attachment, it is my perception of myself that determines how I perceive you and how I relate to you.
Swamiji, quick thing. So we talked about how we perceive ourselves and that relates or that results in what we think of others. But how does trust or doubting come in place? Supposing you doubt someone or you don't trust someone, then what is it that we are thinking about ourselves, or what is it that is going in our head or whatever, which results in us doubting or not trusting someone?
Right, this not trusting is not uncommon. Often it's based on the experiences in our life. As we go through from childhood to this point, we have gone through many relationships, beginning with our parents, elders, siblings, and how we felt that way. I found sometimes, that when I was a child, my uncle would be visiting from, say, Mumbai. And then he goes out, I always want to go with him. So I want to go with you. Sometimes he would take me with him. Now he is going back to Bombay, and I want to go with him, means that they don't want to let me know, otherwise what will I do? So they say that no, he is just going out and coming back, so don't worry. He never came back. Then, I felt, look at this, I have been cheated. So very often the elders or the parents take shortcuts. Because how can you reason with this fellow, he is going to Bombay, you can't go, so you take a shortcut. They will say, no, he is going just market, he is coming back. Doesn't come back. My trust is violated. So this way we grew up, some depends on our luck also, what we are stuck with. So some children are less fortunate than others, where they have encountered this kind of situations where that trust was violated. Everybody's trust gets violated anyway. Some may be a little more unfortunate that trust was violated. It becomes then difficult for us to trust others. I trusted and my trust was violated, I trusted, my trust was violated, and therefore I have come to a conclusion that you can't trust anybody. Everybody may not come to conclusion, depends on myself also. So my perception of myself is important. From that I may have come to conclusion that you, Swami, watch out. You have to watch out, you can't trust. Don't trust your neighbor, hear the advice, don't trust your neighbor. So unfortunately, but the thing is that trust is the most important element in a relationship. We cannot trust others, that cannot be a healthy relationship. So yes, there cannot be a rule that we should trust or we should not trust. Depends upon our judgment. But it's not that we should not trust anybody, so you trust everybody, but it's better to begin with trust and then find out what it is. Because better to give benefit of doubt to others when we do not know that person. Then you may be disappointed, you may be also taken advantage of, it's possible to learn from that and proceed further. But we cannot live our life without trust. You see, if you don't trust anything, what will you do? Samshaya atma vinashrati, Lord Krishna says. Samshaya atma means one who does not trust. Samshaya. Samshaya atma, one whose nature is not to trust. Vinashrati, he is destroyed, meaning that there is no happiness in life. We can be happy with a person only when there is trust. We cannot be happy when there is no trust. So if I don't trust anybody, I am an unhappy, miserable person. Not that I should keep on trusting, but then don't start with distrust. Start with trust as much as you can. We have to be wise, we have to grow, we have to mature, a lot of things are expected out of us when we interact with the world, but it's better to start with trust.
Swamiji, Shat Naman. My question is, we all come with our individual samskaras and prarabdha karma. Seems like the battlefield for relationship is already set.
Yeah, battlefield. All right.
So, how do we handle that? I said, we come individually with our samskaras and prarabdha karma. So, it seems like to me the battlefield for relationship is already set there.
Yeah, we want to continue the discussion, but to answer you briefly, yes, we come with our own samskaras, means our own tendencies, our own likes and dislikes, let us say. But then, whether to allow those likes and dislikes to dictate me, or whether I should have my values to dictate me. Meaning that my samskaras may tell me that you can tell a lie, let us say. It's up to me to submit to that samskara, submit to that tendency, or assert myself that no, I'm going to speak truth. So that is where values and attitudes come. Yeah, we have all brought our samskaras. But what we are taught is that when you conduct yourself, interact, when you do something, try to make sure that what you do is based on the basic values and attitudes. Speak truth, be honest, and so forth. So samskaras we have. We will slowly overcome the effect of the samskaras by creating new samskaras of these values. Hopefully a time will come then that I will be able to speak truth without much difficulty. In the beginning, a lot of struggle may be there.
You mentioned that we should let go. All our life we have been trained to acquire other people's confidence, love, material love and everything, physique. But then there is a time when you have to let go, and it's very difficult to let go even in so many instances where, for instance, you have to let your child grow. You have to let your parents, when they died, and let them go. So what is the scripture otherwise guide? And there's very little talked about how to manage, how to let go and not acquire.
No, you're talking about letting go of two kinds of things. There is no choice. As you say, the parents passed away, no choice. That letting go is at the emotional level, the attachment. But we are talking about our day-to-day interactions, day-to-day life. Letting go there is letting go for attachments and aversions. Letting go for anger. Letting go for greed. Letting go of the jealousy. Because if we allow ourselves to be controlled by them, then our behavior is going to be distorted and hurtful. So this is what we mean by let go. I don't let go of the money, let go of the house. That's not what we mean by let go. Although you think that Vedanta teacher always will tell let go, and no, that's a different letting go. But here the letting go that we are talking about is this. Letting go of that which comes in the way of my happiness. Holding on to something which is going to create conflict in me, going to create conflict with others, that is what we have to let go. In short, letting go the cause of unhappiness. Unhappiness can be given up when the cause of unhappiness is given up.
Pranam Swami. So we have all the relationship, and because of raga and dvesha we see the conflicts. There is one invisible relationship is with God. How to cultivate that? How to cultivate the relationship with God?
It already exists, you say. And we have to become sensitive to how God or Ishvara is constantly contributing to our life. How we are constantly the beneficiaries of His grace. Puja Swami would say that I breathe in, breathe out, and the breath comes in. No, it need not come back, You breathe out and breath remains out when you're gone. Your heart, lup, stop. Dum, stop. If the stop, lup, stop, remain stop, is gone. So thus, if you look at our life, doctors will tell us that it's a miracle that we are alive, that we are healthy. There are any number of reasons why we could not be, and then we are. So it's a miracle. Our life is full of miracles if we want to understand those miracles. If you think that turning water into milk is miracle, is okay, but then there is miracle. One saint, in Vrindavan, so one Westerner came to that saint and said, "Show me a miracle." So you are a miracle. You're born in the drop, and now you are this. Is it not a miracle? So miracles are to be seen, in fact. We think that only when something unusual happens that's a miracle. What we call usual also, if you really look into that, it is a miracle. And so that means it is grace. Our life is constantly full of the grace of Ishvara. To recognize that grace is to recognize Ishvara, and that's how our automatic sense of gratitude will come. Then the desire to do something will come. Devotion will come. In order, therefore, to discover devotion in our life, we should recognize what is Ishvara's contribution in our life, how much it is. More we recognize, more grateful we will be, and more devotion will there be. So after understanding the devotion, there is lasting devotion. We are all born with some devotion, which is good, but it must be made more firm by understanding also. Oh.
Pranam. As you rightly said, is our own perception, how we define our relation. What happens sometime, like if 7 years back you are very close to some friends or family, and as the time passes some other people come closer, or the who was close, that doesn't become that close. And this phenomena of rather than building a close relationship, sometimes we go away, better it's better to leave because it's giving you pain. So is that our perception has changed for that person? Why the relationship at one time, like 5 years ago, was very great, now we don't enjoy or don't have that and have with somebody else? Is that a phenomenon with us being our own perception changing?
Yes. Our expectations changing, perception changing. And every relationship is characterized by expectation. If they are not fulfilled, then we become disappointed. And so that also could be reason why expectations could be the reason. So we have to, what do I want from them? Ideally, can I be related without wanting anything? That's a big, it's a tall order, but this is how we should slowly lead our relationships in that direction.
Pranam Swamiji. When I'm only speaking for myself, so when I start observing the relationships, my behavior in the relationships, then I start seeing the drama in the relationships. And then I start getting very detached. And then people start wondering, like, is she like crazy or something? So that detachment starts coming when I truly become an observer. Is that normal, abnormal? Thank you.
Now, when you say, when you use the word drama, what do you mean?
Meaning just because every relationship has so many phases and ups and downs and so many dimensions, and what it was 10 years ago is not true, so then you start wondering, is it even real? And when you start thinking about truly, is that even the truth, and that's probably not the truth, then you automatically start feeling detachment, less expectations, less of everything. So, is that normal?
Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. And it's not detachment, it is disappointment actually. And therefore you just give up. So you are disappointed in a given relationship, or your expectations are not fulfilled, or maybe what you thought is not what it is. So we are disillusioned. There is the word disillusionment. Very often we are disillusioned. I thought the person was this, that, so forth, and it turned out to be something different. That's what you mean by drama, I guess. The people show themselves different from what they are, or what the people show outside is not what they are inside. That's all only can be called drama. Drama is that when I act quite different from what I truly am. Because that's what a drama is required. You act as a king, and I'm not a king, or you act, So when you use the word drama, that means that people are different inside and people are different outside. And they are quite smart or clever to, create a feeling that what they are doing is right, or create feeling in others that they are genuine. And then later on we recognize and we are disillusioned. That can happen. I told you about the secret agent. It took 40 years for these fellows ultimately to find out.
But sometimes it's not even disillusionment. People, like you were saying, people just go on their own paths and those paths go. And so it was just a phase of somebody touches your life in a good way too.
So that is all right. The example given is like the two pieces of wood, floating in the ocean. They come together for a while and then they separate also. So some relationships are like that. Then the flow of life, we come together and then, separate. Means that's the way the flow is, not that there is any intention behind that.
So just accept as it is.
Just respectfully accept. By accept, I do not mean accept helplessly. That would not be called acceptance. So,
Can I ask a follow-up?
Swamiji.
I just had a follow-up to her question.
Now go ahead. Yeah.
Swamiji, is it possible to help ourselves yield in real time so we don't have to regret?
Well, more often than not, we regret something that we did out of impulse. Usually when we act deliberately, there are fewer even instances of regret than when we act impulsively. So when we act out of an impulse of anger or greed or resentment or this, that and so forth, more often that is what will create in me regret that I should not have done that. Because I did not do that. In anger that I did it or something, I did not do that, but I always blame myself naturally that I did it. Usually if we are more deliberate, then there will not be regret. Then I realize I made a mistake. Then I learn. From an impulsive behavior I cannot learn because I did not do it. And therefore to be as much awareful as possible, as much deliberate as possible is what we can do. We can make mistakes, but then we can learn from those mistakes if you know what I did and what I could have done differently. If I acted out of anger, I did not do it, so there is nothing to learn. Therefore, as best as we can, living deliberately is an important thing.
I was just going to ask, she said that repeated disappointments lead to detachment. What was that?
I talked about detachment, but he said that's not
Yes.
detachment, it's disillusion.
Yeah, disillusion. But when you're disappointed on a repeated basis and you see the limitation of every relationship, would it eventually lead to detachment, or could it?
Well, when you say disappointed, that means there was an appointment and there was an expectation. And if expectations are unreasonable, then they are likely not to be fulfilled. So we have to understand the other person and to what extent that person can fulfill the expectations. And that is how we have to monitor our expectations rather than being disappointed, and because people are what they are. I become disappointed because there is an appointment. Maybe my expectation is unreasonable. So more we understand, we keep on fine-tuning every relationship. When they send a rocket, they keep on correcting the course. And therefore every relationship is like that. To keep on, if necessary, change the course. Change expectations, change what we can expect, what we can do. Not that I woke up 25 years later and then I realized this, but that, then we can't blame somebody also. So we can conclude here this evening.
I think, Swamiji, we are meeting tomorrow at Tanujaji's place. And I was told that there's a slight change in the program.
That's right. So initially what was conveyed was that we were going to have the Bhajan Sandhya at 6 o'clock and then we would start the talk at 7. But instead what we are going to be doing is we'll start with the talk. So please come a few minutes early so that we all settle down and start the talk exactly at 6 o'clock. Followed by the Bhajan Sandhya, and then there'll be prasad with some special food. So everybody, please join in with your friends and family, and let's continue to listen to this talk to its conclusion.
See, that suggestion was made by me. That after bhajan, then this talk, etc., it would be a little, you're in a different mood. And so I suggested that first we can do away with this talk and then have bhajan, so then that you can remain in that mood. So that was my suggestion.
Right perception,
No, there's some people here who are just saying that, since it's a working day, 6 may be a little early for them to ensure that they are there. It could be 6:30 maybe in that case.
I don't mind 6:30. 6:30 is fine with me.
Yeah, so we can begin at 6:30 tomorrow, right?
All right.
Thank you.
It just means it goes a little longer on a weekday.
That's okay.
So what is the situation about dinner tomorrow then?
It's being catered.
Catered, okay, good, no problem. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.